Hi, welcome to part 2 of the Westing game. I just want to put out maybe a caution for parents. The next couple chapters are a little intense and can be scary for some, so you may want to listen to it first if you have really young children. I think for upper elementary it's going to be fine, and the book gets less intense after this, but it stays intense, but not as kind of scary and creepy. So just that warning for you all. So we will continue with chapter 4. The corpse found. The Halloween moon was full. Except for her receding chin, Turtle Wexler looked every inch the witch in her dark, unbraided hair, streaming wild in the wind from under her peaked hat, a putty wart pasted on her small beaked nose. If only she could fly to the Westing house on a broomstick, instead of scrambling over rocks on all fours, with all that she had to carry. Under the long black cape, the pockets of her jeans bulged with necessities for the night's dangerous vigil. Doug Hoop had already reached the top of the cliff and taken his station behind the maple on the lawn. The track star was chosen timekeeper because he could run faster than anyone else in the state of Wisconsin. Here she came, it's about time, shivering knee-deep in damp leaves that couldn't do his leg muscles much good. He readied his thumb on the bottom of the stopwatch. Turtle squinted into the blackness that lay within the open French doors. Open, as though someone or something was expecting her. There's no such thing as a ghost. Besides, all you have to do is speak friendly-like to them. Ghosts, like dogs, they know when a person's scared. Ghosts are worse, Otis Amber had said. Well, not even the worst could hurt Turtle Wexler. She was pure of heart and deed, and she only kicked shins in self-defense, so that couldn't count against her. She wasn't scared. She was not scared. Hurry up! That was Doug from behind the tree. At $2 a minute, 25 minutes would pay for a subscription to the Wall Street Journal. She could stay all night. She was prepared. Turtle checked her pockets. 2 sandwiches. Sandy's flask filled with orange pop, a flashlight, her mother's silver cross to ward off vampires, the putty wart on her nose, soaked in Angela's perfume, in the event she was locked up with a stinking corpse, was clogging her nostrils with sticky sweetness. Turtle took a deep breath of chill night air and flinched with pain. She was afraid of dentists, not ghosts. Don't think about the purple waves. Think about $2 a minute. Now 1, 2, 3, 3.5, go! Doug checked his stopwatch. 9 minutes, 10 minutes, 11 minutes. Suddenly, a terrified scream, a young girl's scream, pierced the night. Should he go in or resist one of the brat's tricks? Another scream, closer. Yeah! Clutching the bunched cape around her waist, Turtle came hurtling out of the Westing house, screaming. Turtle had seen the corpse at the Westing house, but it was not rotting, and it was not sprawled on an oriental rug. The dead man was tucked in a 4-poster bed. The throbbing whisper, purple, purple, or was it turtle, turtle? Whatever it was scary, and it beckoned her to the master bedroom on the 2nd floor, and maybe it was a dream. No, it couldn't be. She ached all over from the tumble down the stairs. The moon was down, the window dark, and Turtle lay in the narrow bed on her narrow room, waiting. Dark, still dark, and waiting. At last, slow morning crept up the cliff and raised the Westing house and the house whispers of the house of death. $2 times 12 minutes equals $24. Thud. The morning newspaper was flung against the front door, and Turtle tiptoed through the sleeping apartment to retrieve it and climbed back into bed. The dead man staring at her from the front page. The face was younger, short beard, darker, but it was him all right. Sam Westing, Found Dead, was the title. Found? No one else knew about the bedded-down corpse except Doug, and he had not believed her. Well, then who found the body? The whisperer? Sam Westing, the mysterious industrialist who disappeared 13 years ago, was found dead in his Washington mansion last night. He was 65 years old, the only child of immigrant parents, orphaned at the age of 12. Self-educated, hard-working Sam Westing saved his laborer's wages and bought a small paper mill. From these meager beginnings, he built the giant Westing Paper Products Corporation and founded the city of Westingtown to house his thousands of workers and their families. His estate is estimated to be worth over $200 million. Turtle read that again. $200 million? Wow. When asked the secret of success, the industrialist always replied, clean living, hard work, and fair play. Westing set his own example. He neither drank nor smoked, never gambled. yet he was a dedicated gamesman and a master at chess. Turtle had been in the game room. That's where she picked up the billiard cue she had carried up the stairs as a weapon. A great patriot, Samuel Westing was famous for his fun-filled 4th of July celebrations. Whether disguised as Ben Franklin or a lowly drummer boy, he always acted a role in an elaborately staged pageants, which he wrote and directed. Perhaps best remembered was his surprise portrayal of Betsy Ross. Games and feasting followed the pageant, and at sunset Mr. Westing would put on his Uncle Sam costume and set off fireworks from his front lawn. The spectacular pyrotechnic display could be viewed 30 miles away. Fireworks! So that's what was in those boxes stamped danger. Explosives, stacked on the ground in the storeroom. What a pyrotechnic display that would make if they all went off at the same time. Well, the Paper King's later years were marred by tragedy. His only daughter, Violet, drowned on the eve of her wedding, and 2 years later his troubled wife deserted their home. Although Mr. Westing obtained a divorce, he never remarried. 5 years later, he was sued by an inventor over the rights to the disposable paper diaper. On his way to court, Samuel Westing and his friend, Dr. Sidney Sykes, were involved in a near-fatal automobile accident. Both men were hospitalized with severe injuries. Sykes resumed his Westinghouse medical practice in the post of county coroner, but Westing disappeared from sight. It was rumored, but never confirmed, that he controlled the vast Westing Paper Products Corporation from a private island in the South Seas. He is still listed as chairman of the board. We are surprised as you are and deeply saddened, a spokesman for Julian R. Eastman, president of the chief executive officer of the corporation, stated when informed that Westing's body was found at his lakeside home. Dr. Sykes' response was, "A tragic end to a tragic life. Sam Westing was truly a great and important man." The funeral will be private. The executor of the Westing estate said the deceased requested that in place of flowers, donations be sent to Blind Bowlers of America. Turtle turned the page of the newspaper, but that was all. That was all? There was no mention of how the body was found, no mention of the envelope propped on the bedside table, which the shaky hand had scrawled, if I am found dead in bed. She had been edging her way against the four-poster when reading the words of the beam of the flashlight, when she felt the waxy dead hand lay on the red, white, and blue quilt. Through her scream, she had seen the white-bearded face, and she remembered running, tripping over a billiard cue and falling down the stairs, denting Sandy's flask and dropping everything else. There was no mention of 2 suspicious peanut butter and jelly sandwiches on the premises, or a flashlight, or a silver cross on a chain. There was no mention of prowlers, no mention of anyone having seen a witch, no mention of footprints on the lawn, track shoes, or sneakers size 6. Oh well, she had nothing to fear other than losing her mother's cross. Old Mr. Westing probably died of a heart attack or pneumonia. It was drafty in there. Turtle hid the folded paper in her desk drawer, counted her black and blue marks in the mirror. 7. Dressed and set out to find 4 people who knew she had been at the Westinghouse last night. Doug Who, Theodorakis, Otis Amber, and Sandy. They owed her $24. And at noon, the 62-year-old delivery boy began his rounds. He had 16 letters to deliver from E.J. Plum, attorney at law. Otis Amber knew what the letter said because one was addressed to him. As named beneficiary in the estate of Samuel W. Westing, your attendance is required in the South Library of the Westinghouse tomorrow at 4 p.m. for the reading of the will. Means old man Westing left you some money, he explained. Just sign this receipt here. What do you mean? What does the position mean? It means position, like a job. Most receipts have that to make sure that the right person gets the right letter. Well, Grace Windsor wrote housewife. Crossed it out, wrote decorator. Crossed that out and wrote heiress. Then she wanted to know who else, how many, and how much. I ain't allowed to say nothing. Well, the other heirs were too stunned for an unexpected legacy to bother him with questions. Madame Who marked an X, and her husband filled in her name and position. Theo wanted to sign the receipt for his. Chris insisted on doing it himself. Slowly, taking great pains, he wrote Christos Theodorakis, birdwatcher. By the time the sun had set behind the Sunset Towers parking lot, Otis Amber, deliverer, had completed his rounds. Chapter 5. 16 Heirs. The marbled sky lay heavy on the gray Great Lake when Grace Windsor Wexler parked her car in the Westing driveway and strode up the walk ahead of her daughters. Her husband had refused to come, but no matter. recalling family gossip about a rich uncle. Maybe it was a great uncle. Anyway, his name was Sam. Grace had convinced herself that she was the rightful heir. Jake was Jewish, so he would not possibly be related to Sam W. Westing. I can't imagine what became of my silver cross, she said, fingering the gold-linked necklace under her mink stole as she paused to appraise the big house. You know, Angela, we could have the wedding right here. Turtle, where are you wandering off to now? The letter said, never mind. Turtle preferred not to explain how she knew the library would be entered from the French doors on the lawn. The front door was opened by Crow, although the Sunset Towers cleaning woman always wore black. Here it reminded Grace Wexler to dab her eyes with a lace handkerchief. That was the house of mourning. Or this was the house of mourning. The silent Crow helped Angela with her coat and nodded approval of her blue velvet dress and white collar and cuffs. I'll keep my furs with me, Grace said. She did not want to be taken for one of those poor relatives. Seems rather chilly in here. Turtle, too, complained of the chill, but her mother tugged off her coat to reveal a fluffy, ruffly pink party, 2 sizes too large and 4 inches too long. It was one of Angela's hand-me-downs. Please sit anywhere, the lawyer said without glancing up from the envelopes that he was sorting at the head of a long library table. Mrs. Wexler took the chair to his right and motioned to her favorite. Angela sat down next to her mother, removed a trousseau towel from her large tapestry shoulder bag, and took up embroidering the monogram D. Slumped in the third chair, Turtle pretended she had never seen this paneled library with its bare and dusty shelves. Suddenly she sat up with a start. An open coffin draped in bunting rested on the raised platform in the far corner of the room. In it lay the dead man, looking exactly as she had found him. Except now he was dressed in the costume of Uncle Sam, including the tall hat. Between the waxy hands, folded across his chest, lay her mother's silver cross. Grace Wexler was too busy greeting the next heir to notice. Why, Dr. D, I had no idea. But of course you'll soon be a member of the family. Come, sit next to your bride-to-be. Turtle, you can move down. Dr. Denton Deer, always in a hurry, brushed a quick kiss on Angela's cheek. He was still wearing his hospital whites. I didn't know this was a pajama party, Turtle said, relinquishing her chair and stomping to the far end of the table. The next heir, short and round, entered timidly, her lips pressed together in an impish smile that curved up to what must be pointed ears under the straight-cut, steely hair. Hello, Mrs. Baumbach, Angela said. I don't think you've met my fiancé, Denton Deer. You're a lucky man, Mr. Deer. Dr. Deer, Mrs. Wexler corrected her, puzzled by the dressmaker's presence. Yes, of course, I'm so sorry. Sensing that she was unwelcome in this end of the room, Flora Baumbach walked on. Hi, mind if I sit next to you? I promise not to pull your braid. That's okay. Turtle was hunched over the table and her small chin resting between her crossed arms. From there she could see everything except the coffin. Grace Wexler dismissed the next heir with an audible tongue click. That distasteful little man didn't even have the sense to remove his silly aviator's cap. What in heaven's name was he doing here? Well, the delivery boy shouted, Let's give a cheer! Otis Amber is here! Turtle laughed. Flora Baumbach tittered, and Grace Wexler again clicked her tongue. Doug Who and his father entered silently. But Sandy gave a hearty hi and a cheery wave. He wore his doorman's uniform, but unlike Otis Amber, carried his hat in his hand. Grace Windsor Wexler was no longer surprised at the odd assortment of heirs. Household workers, all, or former employees, she decided. The rich lawyer always rewarded the servants in their wills, and her Uncle Sam was a generous man. Aren't your parents coming? She asked the older Theodorakis boy as he wheeled his brother into the library. They weren't invited, Theo replied. It's odd, Chris announced. What did he say? He said it's snowing, Theo and Flora Baumbach explained at the same time. The heirs watched helplessly as the invalid's thin frame was suddenly torn and twisted by convulsions. Only the dressmaker rushed to his side. I know, she simpered. You were trying to tell us about the itsy-bitsy snowflings. Theo moved her away. My brother is not an infant, and he is not. So please, no more baby talk. Blinked away tears, Flora Baumbach returned to her seat, the elfin smile still painted on her pained face. Some stared at the afflicted child with a morbid fascination, but most turned away. They didn't want to see. Pyramidal tract involvement, Denton Deer whispered, trying to impress Angela with his diagnosis. Angela, her face a mirror of the boy's suffering, grabbed her tapestry bag and hurried out of the room. Why, hello, Judge Ford. Proud at her liberalism, Grace Windsor Wexler stood and leaned over the table to shake the black woman's hand. She must be here in some legal capacity, or maybe her mother was a household maid, but one thing Grace was certain. J.J. Ford could no more be related to Sam W. Westing than Mr. Who. Can't we get started? Mr. Who asked, hoping to get back in time to watch football game on television. I must return to my restaurant, he announced loudly. Sundays are a busy day, and we are still accepting reservations. Shin-Hoo's restaurant on the 5th floor, Sunset Towers, specializing in... Doug tugged at his father's sleeve. Not here, Dad. Not in front of the dead. What dead? Mr. Who had not noticed the open coffin. Now he did. Oh. The lawyer explained that several heirs had not yet arrived. My wife's not coming, said Mr. Who. Grace said Dr. Wexler was called away on an emergency operation. An emergency Packers game in Green Bay, Turtle confided to Flora Bomback, who scrunched up her shoulders and tittered behind the plump hand. Well, then we are still waiting for two more, the lawyer said, fumbling with his papers, his hands shaking under the strict scrutiny of the judge. Judge Ford had recognized E.J. Plum. Several months ago he had argued before her court, bumbling to the point of incompetence. Why, she wondered, was a young, inexperienced attorney chosen to handle an estate of such importance? Come to think of it, what was she doing here? Curiosity? Perhaps, but what about the rest of them, the other tenants of Sunset Towers? Don't anticipate, Josie Joe. Wait for Sam Westing to make the first move. I guess J.J. Josie Joe was her name. Light footsteps were heard in the hall. It was only Angela who blushed and, hugging her tapestry bag close to her body, returned to her seat. The heirs waited. Some chatted with neighbors, some looked up at the gilt ceiling, some studied the pattern of the oriental rug. Judge Ford stared at the table, at Theo Thoracitus' hand, a calloused hand and a healed cut, a shiny slash of a burn on the deep bronze skin. She lowered her hands to her lap. His Greek skin was darker than her black skin. Thump, thump, thump. Someone was coming, or were there two of them? In came Crow, eyes lowered without a word. She sat down next to Otis Amber. A dark cloud passed from her face as she eased off a tight shoe under the table. Thump, thump, thump. The last expected heir arrived. Hello, everybody. Sorry I'm late. I haven't quite adjusted to this. Sidel Pulaski waved gaily, painted a painted crutch in the air, and tottered and sat down quickly with another thump. This crutch, what a horrible word, but I guess I'll have to get used to it. She pursed her bright red mouth and painted to fullness beyond the narrow line of her lips, trying to suppress a smile of triumph. Everyone was staring. She knew they would notice. What happened, Pulaski? Otis Amber asked. Did you pull Turtle's braid again? More likely she visited Wexler, the foot butcher, Sandy suggested. Sidel was pleased to hear someone come to her defense with a loud click of the tongue. She had not even blinked a false eyelash at those offensive remarks. Poise, they called it. It's really nothing, she reported bravely, just some sort of wasting disease, but pity me not, I shall live out my remaining time enjoying each precious day to the full. Thump, thump, thump. The secretary kept to the side of the room, avoiding the oriental rug that might cushion the thump of her purple-striped crutch, and now she made her way to the end of the table. Her exaggerated hips were even more exaggerated by the wavy stripes of white on her purple dress. Purple waves, Turtle thought. Denton Deer almost fell off his chair, leaning back to follow his most unusual case. First she favored her left leg, then her right leg. What is it? Whispered Mrs. Wexler. The intern did not have the least notion, but he had to say something. Traveling sporadic mitosis, he pronounced quickly and glanced at Angela. Her eyes remained on her embroidery. The lawyer stood, documents in hand, and cleared his throat several times. Grace Windsor Wexler, her chin tilted in the regal pose of an heiress, gave him her full attention. 1 minute, please. Sidel Pulaski propped her purple and white striped crutch against the table, then removed a shorthand pad and pencil from her handbag. Thank you for waiting. You may begin. End of chapter 5. So we will have the reading of the will in the next chapter. So if you want to, I will continue to post these on that one link on my Facebook page, or you can subscribe to the YouTube channel and then unsubscribe when we're done with the book reading. Maybe when this is over, we'll see. But you might see an occasional hair tutorial. Feel free to skip over those if you choose to subscribe, and ring the bell if you want the notifications of when they're posted. So, or you can just follow on my Facebook feed on that one thread. Make sure you're in the one thread. So we will be back for part 3 tomorrow. Talk to y'all later. Bye.